Hi. One of the most frequent questions I get from people is why I'm wearing a wedding ring on my right hand. For me, it's a great opportunity to teach people about what the ring means, what the right hand means, and even what right means. Traditionally, rings were signs or symbols of authority, of power or position. People in authority, like government officials and royalty, would wear a signet ring on their right hand, the hand of power, to show others their position and to seal that symbol in soft wax on a letter, perhaps, as a way of proving the authenticity of the letter. So like the Egyptians, who were the first to use rings as a symbol of authority over 4,800 years ago, and who applied that to marriage, the Jews also wore rings for the same reason. In the book of Genesis, the Egyptian Pharaoh removed his signet ring and put it on the hand of Joseph, the great-grandson of Abraham, when installing him into office in Egypt. In the book of Esther, the king took off his ring, the royal signet ring, by which the decrees of government were signed, and he gave it to Mordecai. The ring showed Pharaoh's affection for and trust in Joseph, and the king's affection for Mordecai, and transferred to them all power and authority necessary for the promotions they had received. One is the governor, the other is the prime minister. In Jeremiah, the Lord himself makes a reference to the signet ring on his own right hand. These scriptural references to the ring as a symbol of power were from the 7th to the 10th centuries before Christ, 3,000 years ago. Interestingly, however, the Jews didn't wear the ring on the ring finger, but rather on their index finger. The reason being that the index finger was used to touch the sacred texts as they were being read, guiding their eyes through the text. So when the Greeks, through Alexander the Great, conquered the Egyptians, they picked up on the traditions of using rings to symbolize the commitment of marriage. The Romans then took it from the Greeks, wearing the symbol of power again on the hand of power, which is more often than not the right hand. It was in this context that Christ was born and Christianity grew up. The question most people have today is, why is a symbol of power needed in marriage? Wouldn't it be more appropriate to just think of it as a symbol of love and commitment? To answer this, it's important to remember how the ring gets onto the finger in the first place. In days of old, a couple promising themselves to each other or being given to each other by their families would almost immediately make their way to the church, where the priest, representing God, would officially engage them. The priest would use a ring as a way of empowering them to begin establishing their own little kingdom within God's heavenly kingdom. In other words, power is not taken or assumed, but it is given by God through his church. In the beautiful and very well-known parable of the prodigal son in the Gospel of St. Luke, we see a beautiful image of paternal empowerment as a father welcomes home his formerly lost and disrespectful son. Upon the son's return, the father senses his son's repentance, and he immediately calls for his servants to put a ring on his son's finger. In this context, the placement of the ring, as well as the calling for a robe and sandals for his bare feet, showed how the father's deepest desire was not to teach a hard lesson to his son, but to restore him to full authority, not as a servant, but as a child, and to give him a share of the inheritance. As far as right as a position, there are more references that we can possibly cover here, and all of them, 169 in all, refer to something good or powerful. For example, Christ ascended and sat at the right hand of the Father, the highest position of power next to the Father's. Those who are being saved at the last judgment will be like sheep on the right hand of Christ. And you might remember that the good thief on the cross was on Christ's right hand as well. As Orthodox Christians, we cross ourselves first to the right, then to the left, unlike other Christians. But the celebrant in all Christian tradition blesses and offers the peace of Christ first to the right side of people and then to the left. Even the Pope today wears his ring on the right hand. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, using the ring as a symbol of power faded away in the West, and it became instead a symbol of unending love. The heart, being the spiritual center of the body, also became a symbol of love, not only in popular culture, but also in Western iconography. Most Americans are well aware of the Sacred Heart statues and images that we see even today, as Jesus with his heart fully visible. The Roman Catholic West, following the Egyptians, then posited the idea that the left hand's ring finger had a special vein that was most closely connected to the heart in each person. The vena amoris, or the vein of love, became so much a part of culture that people throughout the Western world moved their rings from the right to the left hand sometime in the 18th century. Unfortunately, as we know from modern anatomy, there is no such vein particular to that finger. Only veins that run throughout our body, equally flowing with blood from the heart. Since America is so greatly influenced by Western Europe, most Americans, including most Orthodox Christians, wear their wedding ring on their left hand. But that's certainly not the case everywhere. Not only in Greece, but also in Germany, Russia, Poland, India, Spain, Norway, Austria, Denmark, Colombia, Chile, and several other countries, people have maintained the right hand tradition. In any case, we should all see a wedding ring as a sign not only of love and commitment, but also of godly permission to create our own home and our own family. We are his servants. We should be subject to him, since we are not our own, but he bought us with a price, as St. Paul said. In marriage, we seek his presence and blessing, asking him to unite us, even as we remember that he desires a relationship of love with us as well, guiding and assisting us on our Christian walk through life.